So let's start this broadcast with some pretty big updates that have come in from Britain, where the British Prime Minister Liz Truss is in fact now battling to save her job just a month and more after taking office. There's been yet another blow to her administration, and now it is her Interior Minister, Suella Braverman, who has now tendered her resignation. Braverman has said that she is resigning after misuse of personal email. But she also notes some serious concerns over Liz Truss's government. Now, according to reports, her departure is at the behest of the British Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt. Now, Braverman was appointed by Liz Truss in September. She earlier had served as the Attorney General under Boris Johnson. Now, sources say that Grant Shapps will replace Suella Braverman as Britain's Interior Minister. Now, at least 5 Tory members of Parliament had already publicly called for her to be replaced. This has again raised some serious questions on who is now controlling the British government and how far the Conservative Party is now willing to stretch this, where it appears that Liz Truss, although she's the Prime Minister, is simply not in control. Now, earlier today, in the British Prime Minister, Liz Truss faced the members of Parliament in her very first Prime Minister's questions, and despite facing a call to resign from her own party members and opposition, Liz Truss said that she's a fighter and not a quitter. And what followed in the British House of Commons was a fierce battle of words between Liz Truss and the opposition leader Keir Starmer. Now, the opposition Labour Party leader attacked the recent U-turns on spending cuts. The Starmer also said that the Conservatives' economic credibility is simply gone after Truss's plans ended in a disaster. Now, Truss, of course, hit back, saying that she is not going to quit no matter how much the Labour Party wants her to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A book is being written about the Prime Minister's time in office. Apparently it's going to be out by Christmas. Is that the release date or the title?
In office for just under 2 months, and I have delivered the energy price guarantee, making sure that people aren't paying £6,000 bills this winter. I've reversed the national insurance increase, and I've also taken steps, and we will be taking steps, to crack down on the militant unions.
Last week, the Prime Minister ignored everything. Instead, she repeatedly criticised Labour's plan for a 6-month freeze on energy bills. This week, the Chancellor made it her policy. How can she be held to account when she's not in charge?
I had to take the decision, because of the economic situation, to adjust our policies. I am somebody who's prepared to front up. I'm prepared to take the tough decisions, unlike the honourable gentleman who hasn't done anything on businesses.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister stood there and promised absolutely no spending reductions. They all cheered. This week, the Chancellor announced a new wave of cuts. What's the point of a Prime Minister whose promises don't even last a week?
All right, so some pretty intense fireworks there at the British Parliament. And also in a surprise revelation at the Prime Minister's questions, Liz Truss confirmed that she will raise state pensions in line with inflation next year. But unlike her promise for the pensioners, Liz Truss has not made the same commitment to those who receive state benefits. The session took place less than 48 hours after the new Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, had dismembered Truss's flagship tax plans in a humiliating U-turn for Liz Truss's government. The polls now indicate that Liz Truss's personal and party ratings have plummeted, and according to YouGov, she's now become the most unpopular leader that it has ever tracked in British history. And this political turmoil, of course, comes amidst the worsening cost of living crisis, with inflation jumping about the 10% mark and also the soaring food prices. And this massive blow has benefited, to a certain extent, the opposition Labour Party. The Labour Party has opened up huge poll leads over the ruling Conservatives, and according to YouGov, more than 3/4 of the people at this point of time in Britain disapprove of Liz Truss's government. And also, this is the worst rating that a Tory government has had. The Truss and Hunt are desperately trying to balance the books after investor confidence was shattered after the mini-budget's announcement. Even if Liz Truss manages to stay in power, she faces a very tough winter ahead. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what's exactly happening within the British corridors of power, we're being joined in by our correspondent, Alex Isat, who's joining us live from London. Alex, we just witnessed the exchange between the British Prime Minister and also the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, there. Now, Suella Braverman, the Interior Minister, has resigned, and it is being said that this has happened at the behest of Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, who was just brought in a couple of days back. So this clearly shows that the Tory government is a divided house.
It does seem clear that the Tory government is definitely divided, but Suella Braverman has actually handed in her resignation due to the fact that her personal email that she sent out information that she shouldn't have been allowed to send out with regards to immigration. So she actually breached ministerial conduct there, and she then was let go, asked to resign, and therefore she did resign. And in her resignation letter that she did post on Twitter, she did say that these are the reasons why she did leave the cabinet. But she also did say that she wasn't really on board with a lot of Liz Truss's policies. She did manage to put it in her own knife in that wound there, that basically everything that she decided that to come on board as a cabinet member of Liz Truss's cabinet, in fact, she didn't agree that they were going forward in the right way. Now, we do think that Grant Shapps is going to be taking on that role that Suella Braverman has left behind, which is an interesting choice as well, because he was one that did back Rishi Sunak, and he's a really great numbers man, thinking about how he's going to use all of that to the advantage of potentially Liz Truss's cabinet, which could potentially be a real benefit for her, especially as we lead up to that Halloween forecast there. So using Grant Shapps and obviously Jeremy Hunt as well, two people that were on the side of Rishi Sunak in her own cabinet, could lead to maybe a potential winning streak for Liz Truss.
Interesting assessment. Now, the Westminster model of government says that the Prime Minister is the first among equals, but the buzz is 6 weeks into the government, Liz Truss reportedly is not even in control of her government. So the question is, who is calling the shots in Liz Truss's government?
It's true. Has been at least 5 members of her own party that have said out in public that they want her to leave and resign. And we do know about 100 other backbenchers have spoken in a letter to each other, and they're putting it towards Graham Brady or the 1922 committee, who are there meeting tonight, that they would like also Liz Truss to leave. But there is actually no unity candidate that could bring this party together. So at the moment, they're just throwing out that they don't want Truss to be in. They don't believe her. The credibility's gone. There's no trust there. But they're not suggesting that anybody else could potentially lead in her place.
Right.
So at the moment, there is like real civil war within the party itself.
Absolutely, indeed. And also the 31st of October is said to be a crucial date, because that is the date when then independent assessment of the outlook for the British economy is expected to be put out. Now, considering the way that things have gone with respect to the British economy under Liz Truss, what is the chatter within the Tory party on the performance of the Prime Minister so far as the economy of Britain is concerned?
Of course, when the mini-budget was sent out by the former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng, it led to a huge spooking in the market, and therefore we saw inflation rates rise. The Bank of England had to step in and buy those pension gilts. Everything was thrown into turmoil, and it still hasn't really meandered out at all. September, we saw the highest, fastest inflation rate go up in the last 40 years. And it does seem that that is now going to be passed down to the UK people, where the cost of living is ridiculously high, cost of food, cost of heating and bills as we head into winter. So October 31st, although the OBR forecast might give us an understanding exactly how much money that the government has to spend, and whether they can put that money into the most vulnerable as they keep professing, or are they going to be asking for more higher rates, more interest cuts? We don't know yet. So this is what the forecast will be able to tell us.
Absolutely, indeed. That, of course, is a date to watch out for. Thank you very much indeed, Alex Isat, for joining us from London and getting us all those insights there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.